She had spent most of her life trying to be worthy, worthy of love, worthy of approval, worthy of rest, as if rest was something you had to earn, like a prize you only got after you proved you were exhausted enough. Every morning, she stood in front of the mirror like it was a courtroom, and her reflection, that soft human face, became evidence. Evidence of what she thought she lacked. A little too tired, a little too quiet, a little too much, a little not enough. And the strangest part was, she didn't hate herself. No, not hate. She just didn't see herself. Not really. She saw the performance, the mask that smiled at the right times, the version that kept it together, the one who said, "I'm fine," even when her ribs felt like they were holding back a storm. She saw the checklist, the shoulds, the one day I'll feel okay when I lose the weight, when I get the job, when they choose me, when I stop being so sensitive, when I stop needing so much. And the world loved her for how well she carried it. But no one ever asked her if it was heavy, so she kept carrying. She carried it in crowded rooms, laughing at jokes she didn't feel, hugging people with arms that secretly wanted to be held. She carried it in silence too, the kind that isn't peaceful, the kind that feels like loneliness with the lights on. And slowly, over years, her life became a series of almosts. Almost happy, almost enough, almost resting, until one day, something in her finally said, "I can't," not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet truth that rose like water in her chest. She couldn't carry it anymore, the endless trying, the measuring, the noise that said she was never enough. So she did something that didn't make sense to anyone else. She packed a small bag and left the city. No destination, no itinerary, no perfect plan, just a longing to hear something real again. And at first it felt wrong. The first night she lay in a cheap room with thin curtains, listening to the hum of her own thoughts. They weren't gentle. They came like old habits do. Where are you going? What are you doing? This is irresponsible. You're wasting time. You're falling behind. And she almost turned back. Because when you've lived your life proving you deserve to exist, freedom feels like guilt. But the next morning, she kept going anyway. She walked through unfamiliar streets where no one knew her name. She sat in diners alone. She watched strangers laugh and realized the world didn't collapse because she wasn't performing. Days passed, and with each mile, something loosened. Not her life, her grip. After days of wandering, she came upon an old lake, still as glass, surrounded by pines. It was late afternoon, the kind of light that makes everything look forgiven. The air smelled like earth and quiet. The trees stood like ancient witnesses, unmoved by human worry. The water didn't rush. It didn't try to impress anyone, it just was. And something about that unbothered existence, made her chest ache. She sat at the edge of the lake, shoes off, toes touching cool ground. She watched the water hold the sky without effort. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she let herself feel what she'd been outrunning, the grief. Not only the big griefs, but the small ones too. The grief of every time she swallowed her truth to keep the peace. The grief of every time she shrank herself so someone else wouldn't leave. The grief of becoming so good at surviving that she forgot how to live. Her throat tightened, she breathed in, and then out. And finally, she whispered the question she'd been afraid to ask her whole life. Why can't I love myself? It wasn't a dramatic question, it was a tired question. A question that sounded like surrender. The wind moved across the water soft like an exhale, and then a voice, not from outside. Not from the trees, not from the sky, from somewhere deep within her. It rose gently, like a truth that didn't need to shout, because you've been loving the mask, not the soul beneath it. Her eyes opened slowly, and there she was, in the reflection. But this time, she didn't see a list of flaws or failures. She saw a tired but luminous face, the face of someone who had survived every storm, someone who had been brave in quiet ways, the kind of brave no one claps for, the kind of brave that looks like getting out of bed when your heart is heavy, the kind of brave that looks like choosing kindness in a world that sometimes isn't. She saw the girl who tried so hard to be lovable. She saw the woman who kept going even when she felt empty. And suddenly it hit her. She had been treating herself like a project instead of a person. She had been waiting to become perfect enough to deserve tenderness. But tenderness isn't a reward, it's a need. Tears fell, not of sadness, but of release, a deep untying, as if something inside her had been clenched for years and was finally allowed to open. For the first time, she didn't look away. She held her own gaze steady, trembling, honest. And she whispered, "I forgive you. I forgive you for trying to earn what you were born deserving. I forgive you for thinking you had to be smaller to be safe. I forgive you for believing love was something you had to chase. I forgive you for not knowing sooner." The soul within her stirred. That ancient glowing presence, the part of her that existed before the world told her who to be, the part that had waited patiently beneath every layer of noise. And it whispered back, "Thank you. I've been here all along." And in that moment, the line between human and divine blurred, not because she became something else, but because she remembered she had always been something more than her wounds. She felt love, not the kind that comes from doing or earning, not the kind that leaves when you fail, but the kind that simply is. Love for the girl who fell apart, love for the woman who rebuilt, love for every version of herself that tried to be light, even when she felt surrounded by darkness. The sun began to set, spilling gold across the lake like a blessing, and she realized the mirror had never been cruel. It had only been waiting for her to see beyond her reflection to the light behind it. She smiled, not the practiced smile for others, not the polite one, not the "I'm okay" smile, the small, honest smile of someone who finally came home to herself. That night, under a wide and forgiving sky, she whispered a new kind of prayer, not asking for anything, just saying thank you. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the love. Thank you for being here. Still, and somewhere deep within her chest, the soul smiled too, a quiet, golden knowing that whispered, "Now you understand. You were never broken. You were only waiting to be seen."